Hi everyone, good to see you.
Hi!
This is Linda.
And this is Peter. And we're both editors of this book. So look, thanks for coming to our book launch, and we're so sorry we can't be there in Melbourne to join you all and drink much better coffee.
We have to teach.
So, yeah, before we get to the whole launching of books and raising of glasses, we want to say a few words about this book of ours.
Yes, first we want you to buy it. It's got a really good cover. So that's a good reason to buy it.
Yep.
But
more importantly, we hope you'll read it, because we actually found it much easier to buy books than to read them.
and see all of Linda's books here on the bookshelves. She's bought them all and not necessarily read many of them. So some wisdom there. Sticks to the script. So if you read it, you'll understand what it's about. But let us tell you, we kind of had a reason for editing this book, and it's hard to remember because it was 3.5 years ago that we started the project. But the title kind of says it all. It's about learning and mobilising in community development. And in many ways, our experience was that a lot of community development work, you see the change, you see the stuff that's visible, but beneath that's a lot of invisible work, and it's the learning that people do together, and we wanted to make that visible. Probably a nice story in the introduction kind of makes that journey quite clear, and I'll read it to you. It's brief.
So everybody, boys and girls, sit down, settle back, and get ready for a story.
Did you always want to be like a play school?
Go.
Alright, so anyway, the first story is the very familiar one of Rosa Parks in the African American civil rights struggle. And the story is one that, you know, here's a black woman and she triggers the civil rights movement. And for many years, both of us had heard this story through the lens of the lone hero. Here was a weary African American who simply got to the point of saying enough and refused to move on the bus for a white passenger when asked. But over time, we learn of the extraordinary deliberation and solidarity infused in that act of disobedience. Because Rosa Parks, along with many other African American leaders and community members, had actually participated in a community-based training program that had been going on for years, run by the Highlander Folk Institute, led by Miles Horton and his colleagues. So she was ready for change. She had been trained. So that's what this book's about. It's making explicit and conscious to the reader many of the ways of thinking about learning that sits behind mobilisation processes of collective change. Would that be right?
That's very much it.
Yep.
And in terms of thinking about those collective processes, I guess that's the other spirit of the book, that quite often what's visible is something individual. We see the small story or the individual heroic moment. And in fact, there's often years of work and preparation behind those moments, and the stories we're told don't necessarily speak to the rigour in thinking and this depth of skill and the depth of solidarity. So we wanted to also tell that story, which is a very alternative story of education to one that we often hear. And in that spirit of collaboration, we think it's really lovely that we actually have a whole collaboration of authors that have come together to tell their stories about education and training. And so this book is really highlighting stories from them. And
we didn't just get them to write it, we came together. We kind of wrote things together, interrogated each other's stories. So it's quite a real collaborative effort.
Yep, and taught and learned from each other. So we were trying to model the very process that we speak about in the book, about bringing people together to learn together. And so our experience in this has been a lovely one of journeying alongside authors. Isn't that right, Robbie?
Yes. Thanks, Robbie.
Thanks, Robbie. So
who do you want to thank?
Well, I guess the first thing is to thank Robbie for hosting the event.
Thanks.
Thanks, Robbie. Love your work. Secondly, to thank Jim. It's lovely that our paths keep crossing, Jim, and we really appreciate your words, both on the cover of our book, but also tonight as well. We assume you're saying nice things. So we appreciate that. And we also want to thank the team at Ashgate that have helped us bring this project to fruition. And
Great to work with.
Great to work with, yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. And we really hope that you will, again in the spirit of community, pass this book on to others, or better yet, get them to buy it.
And read it.
And read it, yeah. Because we want to actually share this wisdom further and speak up the thinking and the work that sits behind so many of our community efforts and keep building our sense of community, wherever it may happen to be.
Yes, thank you. So thanks to everyone again. And look, we won't take much more of your time up, but just to say as we close this, please invite us to Melbourne, like more often, and in the spirit of collaboration you need to, because you survived Jeff Kennett and we're trying to survive Mr. Candu Campbell Newman, and we need all your wisdom in learning how to do that. Is that right? Okay, so if you haven't drunk champagne yet,
or even if you have,
drink another one.
Raise a glass, have
Thank
a toast, launch the book. Thank you.
Cheers.